Inside us, there is something that has no name. That something is what we are. The difficult thing isn't living with other people. It's understanding them. A tree weeps when cut down. A dog howls when beaten. But a man matures when offended. Your questions are false if you already know the answer. As so often happens, the thing left undone tires you most of all. You only feel rested when it has been accomplished. If I'm sincere today, what does it matter if I regret it tomorrow? Such is our need to shower blame on some distant entity, when it is we who lack the courage to face up to what is there before us. With the passage of time, as well as the social evolution and genetic exchange, we ended up putting our conscience in the color of our blood and the salt of our tears. You know the name you were given. You do not know the name that you have. The worst pain isn't the pain you feel at the time. It's the pain you feel later on when there's nothing you can do about it. They say that time heals all wounds, but we never live long enough to test that theory. Chaos is merely order waiting to be deciphered. If we cannot live entirely like human beings, at least let us do everything in our power not to live entirely like animals. Words were not given to man in order to conceal his thoughts. Words have their own hierarchy, their own protocol, their own artistic titles, their own plebeian stigmas. One cannot be too careful with words. They change their minds just as people do. Forgive me if what has seemed little to you, to me is all. That's how life is. What it gives with one hand one day, it takes away with the other. One can show no greater respect than to weep for a stranger. You have to leave the island in order to see the island, that we can't see ourselves unless we become free of ourselves. Unless we escape from ourselves, you mean? No, that's not the same thing. Strictly speaking, we do not make decisions. Decisions make us. Sleep is a skilled magician. It changes the proportions of things, the distances between them. It separates people, and they're lying next to each other, brings them together, and they can barely see one another. As my cat would say, all hours are good for sleeping. Anyone who gets up early by inclination, or has been forced to rise early out of necessity, finds it intolerable that others should go on sleeping soundly. In matters of feeling and of the heart, too much is always better than too little. That's how life should be. When one person loses heart, the other must have heart and courage enough for both. There is nothing in this world that belongs to us in an absolute sense. Doubt is the privilege of those who have lived a long time. Don't you know, if you don't step outside yourself, you'll never discover who you are. If there is a way for the world to be transformed for the better, it can only be done by pessimism, Optimists will never change the world for the better. Words that come from the heart are never spoken. They get caught in the throat and can only be read in one's eyes. Perhaps only in a world of the blind will things be what they truly are. Reading is probably another way of being in a place. Men are all the same. They think that because they came out of the belly of a woman, they know all there is to know about women. The habit of falling hardens the body. Reaching the ground, too, in itself, is a relief. We all have our moments of weakness, just as well that we are still capable of weeping. Tears are often our salvation. There are times when we would die if we did not weep. Liking is probably the best form of ownership, and ownership the worst form of liking. If you don't write your books, nobody else will do it for you. No one else has lived your life. We never consider that the things dogs know about us are things of which we have not the faintest notion. Just as the habit does not make the monk, the scepter does not make the king. I think we are blind. Blind people who can see, but do not see. The best way of killing a rose is to force it open, when it is still only the promise of a bud. We are so afraid of the idea of having to die, that we always try to find excuses for the dead, as if we were asking beforehand to be excused when it is our turn. There are such moments in life when, in order for heaven to open, it is necessary for a door to close. When all is said and done, what is clear is that all lives end before their time. Because each of you has his or her own death, you carry it with you in a secret place from the moment you're born. It belongs to you, and you belong to it. We all know that each day that dawns is the first for some, and will be the last for others, and that for most people it will be just another day. That the human being to lack that second skin we call egoism has not yet been born. It lasts much longer than the other one, that bleeds so readily. This is the way fate usually treats us. It's right there behind us. It has already reached out a hand to touch us on the shoulder while we're still muttering to ourselves, "It's all over, that's it. Who cares anyhow?" Oh, I'm not just going too far. I've arrived.